record. Okay, we're live.
We are live. All right. Hello, everyone. Matthew Hegum. We're back again for another Lyceum at the Accounting Alchemy Network. So for those of you who don't know, though I'm sure at this point you do, the Accounting Alchemy Network is all about empowering accountants to transform the world. We do this through a series of practices, one of them being the Lyceum, which you'll experience today, where we bring people into the space and have a conversation about something that's really important to us. I'll let Ingrid introduce the topic and queue up our speakers in just a moment. But before I do that, of course, as many of you know, we also have our LinkedIn group and our Facebook group. So please, please, please. And actually we have YouTube too now, full-fledged YouTube channel with all the juicy content. So if you missed the Lyceum in the past, we've had some really powerful conversations ranging from what is the problem, right, all the way through to how do we look at issues like diversity, equity, and inclusion, climate action, the whole gamut of things. It's been really inspiring. So check out our YouTube channel, check out the content we're posting on both Facebook and LinkedIn, and get involved in the conversation. We really want to bring you forward into the dialogue. We also have social forums. So if you haven't caught one of those, I believe there are some replays on YouTube. If not, look through the feed. We'll get you synced up with that. We have some awesome things planned for the fall. And one of the things that both Ingrid and I are super excited about is that we're going to Appy Camp. We're going to Appy Camp. So we're super pumped to have Heather and Liz with us. Oh my God, you have the t-shirt. I need to get that t-shirt. All right, anyways, I was so distracted and love you, and that's amazing. And so we're super excited that Heather and Liz are with us here today to kind of get our brains organized a little bit about what this Appy Camp thing is about, but also to talk about the topic that's really important to the Accounting Alchemy Network. So Ingrid, I'm going to pass it over to you to introduce our topic, fill in any gaps that I missed in our introduction, and then get our speakers in queue to share who they are. All right?
Thank you, Matthew. I think you rocked it on the introduction. I love that you do that. And yeah, our topic today is really kind of focused on app culture. So the culture of the organizations that create the software that we need to do accounting things is kind of an important piece. And I got to have some really interesting conversations with both Heather and Liz at Scaling New Heights around this topic and trying to wrap our minds around, you know, what are we as accounting professionals looking for in the culture of the companies that we want to interact with, and how that ropes into this amazing Appy Camp thing that Heather and Liz are doing through their Appy Hour podcast. So with that, I would like to toss it to each of you to just introduce yourselves, say a little about what Appy Hour and what Appy Camp is for those who aren't familiar with it. Heather, do you want to start us off?
Sure, absolutely. So hi, thanks for having us on, Ingrid and Matthew. I'm really excited to be here today. So yeah, I'm Heather Satterley. I'm a CPA, but before I'm a CPA, I'm a human. and an animal lover, and I have kids and grandkids and all that good stuff. So I love accounting technology. I've been an accountant for most of my adult life, or working in the accounting industry. I have an affinity for technology, and so that's kind of where I found my niche within my practice. So what do? I work with companies, whether they are small SMBs, small to mid-sized businesses, or accounting firms, and I help them to select the right solution for whatever problem they're looking to solve within their business. I also am part of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network. We're going to be talking about app culture, and their app culture, actually, the culture at Intuit is something that I strive for in my own organization and the places that I work. So that'll be interesting for us to talk about. So anyway, as part of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, I spend a lot of my time teaching how to use QuickBooks and how to do other things that are related to QuickBooks for Intuit. And I also work to develop their educational content. Hopefully I didn't take too long. Sorry.
Oh, it's fine. Thank you, Heather. Liz, how about you? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. So same to a lot of the things that Heather said. We've got an accounting firm, and one of the things I do in the accounting firm is I test a lot of the apps that I'm recommending. So I go through and have a chance to be able to diagnose, is there something more that we're looking for, which also allows the opportunity to to work really closely with a lot of the app developers. And so the majority of what I do is app consulting. And I've been really, really thrilled to hear how many of these solution partners are out there that are looking for our input. And they're really curious as to what would help them to be able to design a solution that is exactly the right fit for us. And so, it's kind of like I have that 80-20 rule. So 80% of it, I really want to have it be something that fits everybody. And that last 20%, every little business or every entrepreneur has got some type of special thing that they do. But we really, my goal is to work with these accounting apps that want to be in this space and want to listen. And it's a really cool place to be. And it works beautifully with Appy Hour because we're able to then share who is really investing in our community, who wants to be here and listening.
Fantastic. Thank you. Can you tell us a bit more about Appy Hour? Like where did that idea come from? Where did it start? How long have you been doing it? And like, what is the mission? What's the vision? What is the why behind Appy Hour? Which of you would be better to take that?
You may take this one, Heather.
Sure.
Okay. So Appy Hour was born out of being on the road. So both Heather and I tour for Intuit and training other accountants how to use QuickBooks. And because we both specialize in app solutions in our firms, we were naturally asked, which apps do you connect? How do you connect them? Why did you pick that app? And so there's a lot of apps that are in the similar industry, but they do things sometimes slightly different. And so the workflow is something that Heather and I both dig into because you really have to have a solution that fits your workflow. What we find a lot of times is, if somebody says, well, this app didn't work for me, it's usually that it's fighting the nature of the workflow of the business. So Heather and I would geek out because we both loved apps and we both loved seeing the cool stuff that they could do. And, to be able to call a buddy at 10 p.m. and be like, oh my gosh, look what happened. Look what this app does. And it's going to save me so much time here. That was really one of those aha moments that more than just us geek out over integrations. So we wanted to share it with our entire community because we're testing these apps. So we might as well be sharing what's the results.
Yeah, and honestly, we heard the need while we were on the road. So we heard from people that were attending these Intuit events. I want to dip my toe into apps, but number one, I'm an accountant and data is really important to me, and I don't want to hook something into my accounting system that's going to blow up my system, right? And second of all, how do you experiment safely? So how do you vet an app? How do you understand whether it's a cost-effective best bet for your business? And so Liz and I, that we spent a lot of time doing that just because we really enjoy doing it, and we're very much intrigued and love innovation and what's new and what's coming. I always think of it as magic, right? That's what it feels like to me. Whenever a new app comes on the market that like makes my job easier, I'm like, wow, somebody just cooked up this new potion and now I get to figure out how it works and whether or not it's going to kill me, right? So,
Heather, you missed the Harry Potter conversation we were having right before you hopped on.
Right, yeah, right.
I'm sporting my
and represent.
Yeah, big Harry Potter fans over here. So yeah, and so we realized that there's a big need for this because accountants don't have the time to put in, or either they don't have the time or they don't want to create the time to do what Liz and I love. So it was an opportunity for us to do something for our industry in a joyful way, and then also have a whole lot of fun and spend time together. So it was like kind of like this perfect mix of creating awesome.
I love that. And I'll tag on to the piece where you were saying that accountants don't have time. That's one of the things that we find is we're bringing the solutions to everyone through these episodes. And then we also invite our sponsors to also do what we call a deep dive. And the
Mm.
deep dive is that piece where, you know, our community has decided, yes, that's the app for me, but they really want to be taken through the steps in order to integrate. You know, they don't have time to go and investigate. Now, where's my sync button? You know, some of those pieces of it, you know, a lot of the times you have to spend some time digesting. And so we do deep dives to help with how do you get started? What is the
Yeah.
app supposed to do? And then what are some tips and tricks?
It was really important to Liz and I when we created Appy Hour that it wasn't a commercial. And we have apps come to us all the time, you know, asking to be on Appy Hour, and we don't let everybody on Appy Hour. So if somebody comes to us and we've never heard of the app, we take out a trial, we'll play with it, we'll have several meetings with them. And there's a lot of times where apps come to us to be on Appy Hour, and we'll say, you're not ready yet. Like, you're not
Yep.
quite where you need to be. And here's the things that we would recommend, you know, that you kind of focus on now, and then let's talk in 6 months. And we've had apps that have come to us and then later appeared on the show, which is, that I believe is one of the greatest feelings, is to have that app finally get to like, you're totally ready for prime time. So it's really fun. It's really fulfilling. And I get to hang out with Liz all the time, which is just an added bonus.
Yeah. And then one day you woke up and decided to do Appy Camp. So maybe tell us a little bit about why that's the next iteration for you. What's the vision for Appy Camp, and how does that fit into what you're doing with the other work?
So is it okay if I start this one, Heather, and then I'll pass it over to you so you can kind of dive into more about what it is we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, being stuck in my electronic bubble during the pandemic, I bought a fifth wheel, and we had road trips, and we were out on the road all the time. And it was really nice to be able to get that time away, because clients were suffering. I was getting those panicked phone calls. I don't know if my business is going to survive. And I needed a mental break to get away from that. And so the road for me, going camping, was exactly what I needed. Being out amongst the stars, being outside, having a chance to soak up some fresh air, and allowed for new ideas. And it rejuvenated my spirit. And so Heather and I thought, how can we pull together a small group who's like-minded and have this kind of experience with them where the sky's the limit? I mean, you see the stars, you reach for them. And that's a big part of the behind of how the camp aspect started of it. And then Heather, do you want to share more about like what we're actually doing in camp?
Yeah. So, you know, one of the things that, you know, as Liz said, we were like, how do we get together? How do we create this environment? And then we started to think about, well, what is it that we would want to talk about? And we had a lot of different ideas. And really, the one thing that was perfectly, you know, abundantly clear was, we don't want to have a conference. We don't want to have a conference, because a conference, you know, we're the presenters, as you guys are, right? We're the presenters at conferences that we go to. And as you guys know, we don't get a lot of time for deepening relationships, you know, really learning about what's new and hearing others' ideas, because we're teaching. And when you're a highly rated presenter, you can actually end up teaching 5, 6, 7 sessions and literally wake up, go teach, and then go to bed, right? And that can happen. And so you don't really get the chance to feed your brain and network with other presenters. So we wanted to really focus on that and give our peers the opportunity to come together and have that time together where we can just talk. We can kind of talk about our craft, talk about what we're teaching, what is the messaging that we want to put out into the world, learn about what the messaging of our peers that they're putting out into the world is, and also sharpen our skills. Another big component of it was, you know, Liz and I are both a huge believer in paying it forward.
Yep.
And so somebody gave me a chance, Allison Ball, when I was looking to start my speaking career, and somebody gave Liz a chance when she started her speaking career. And so it's really important to us that we kind of, you know, make a pathway and enable others that are looking to follow the same path that we did. You know, I would love to say I'm a trailblazer, but I'm not. I'm following in the footsteps of Leslie Capichetti and Michelle Long and Stacy Kildall and Dawn Brolin. They're all the ones that inspired me to start doing what I'm doing. And so for us to create this event where we can actually bring in people that haven't yet had the chance to take the stage, or they've done so on a smaller scale, is really fulfilling to us. And, a lot of times all it takes for someone to actually make that leap is an introduction to somebody that or having a conversation with them for an hour to tell them, how did you get there? Right. I had one person, I have people actually ask that all the time, but how did you get there? How did you end up on the stage? How did you end up being a presenter for Intuit? And, being able to share that with people and actually see them end up on the stage. Whoa.
Yep.
Like I get chills, like, whoa. And so this is an opportunity for us to do that, to, feed ourselves, but also help others within our community actually grab that brass ring themselves.
Well, and I'll tag on to that and say, the other thing that we all acknowledge is that even though we're speaking at conference, even though we're doing webinars, we're writing, even though we're doing all of that, all of us have an area of interest. And so, my area of interest is security. Here we are connecting all of these apps. Security is a big component for me. If I'm recommending an app to a client, they're really thinking that we've already vetted the security aspect of it. And like Heather was saying, there's not always enough time as a accounting firm to have the time to do the connectivity. Looking at vetting the app. Does it do what I want to? Do I have any bugs with it? Do I need to train my team? And so that's been an area of interest for me. And I was lucky enough today to have a conversation with Clayton Oates. And one of the things that we want to do in this at Appy Camp is we want to bring together all of these people who have little areas that they're specializing in and pull that together, because somebody else, that's going to be there, they're more cryptocurrency and that's their area of interest. And so we all need to be aware of the trends that are happening. The apps that have sponsored this event, they're sharing with us what their roadmaps are, how they can be better and connected to this community as to what we need. And so, somebody like Clayton Oates, whenever I was talking to him today, one of the cool things that he has suggested is that accountants create their own agreement for partner solutions. And I love that. So to be able to say, if you're going to partner with me as an accountant, you have to meet these certain criteria. And I think that's genius. And so pulling together all of these like minds that are specializing in these certain areas allows us to have a chance to make a bigger impact, instead of being siloed and teaching one class, but being unaware that somebody else is maybe taking it a step further. And so that connectivity that we don't get a chance to have because we're teaching at a conference and not able to sit down, this is part of what propels our industry, is being united.
Thank you. I'm gotta just ask, because I'm curious, did you talk Clayton into coming? Because I was trying to talk him into it last month when he was on a Lyceum with us.
I would love for him to be there. I think that it's a 50-50 shot right now.
Okay. Australia is he would probably win the award for farthest traveled to Appy Camp if he did come.
Yeah, I know. And this is conference season for him. So there's a lot that's happening. And, somebody like himself who's on the road a lot, it's even harder to stay connected. So, that's the reason that we wanted to have this type of atmosphere is, like Heather was saying, we really want to pay it forward. And there's some of these people that are putting in the time, but maybe don't have the resources to get themselves to an event like this. We wanted to make sure that the monetary piece of it was not what was stopping them from being able to be heard in this community.
Yes.
That was important to us.
That was really important.
Well, and I love, Liz, what you were just saying about the connectivity of all of it, because the fact that we refer to our technology as an app ecosystem, I feel really gets it all back to a little bit on the vision of the Accounting Alchemy Network, where we are working to help accounting professionals transform our world in positive ways. And part of the way in which we do that is by recognizing where we are connected And, you know, those words that flow along with biomimicry, when our systems mimic how things act in nature, it is an app ecosystem. It's a technological ecosystem. And one of the big pieces of that ecosystem, and this is kind of getting into the root of our conversation today, that has been a little neglected over the last handful of years, is the deeper why culture in the apps. And just to give a little bit of background on where this conversation first started, I was noticing a bit of the shift in our app culture over the last handful of years, because when I really first started going to conferences in 2015, Scaling New Heights was my first conference, T-sheets and Practice Ignition and Receipt Bank and Expensify all took me by storm at how passionate they were about the apps that they were presenting. And it was all very much start with why. And the courses that Matt Rissell and Damian Greathead and Sabrina from Live Plan all taught at the conferences, that were full of so much heart and purpose of, this is why we're doing this. And if you want to engage with us and play with us, they led with the culture. And I really feel like a lot of that, frankly, died when Intuit purchased T-sheets.
Well, and my rebuttal to that is they broke the mold with Matt Rizzle. I mean, how do you replicate him? I don't know. And you know, the other thing that I would say is, because Heather and I get a chance to work so deeply with the solutions that are out there, that passion is still there. It's just the thing that I find is that we're all siloed geeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have this hard time with connecting with others. You know, one of the reasons why I think that the conferences do so well is that we're like, our geek tar is up and we are finding each other, and we are like, you know, buzzing with just our areas of interest. And so I think that developers are the same way. It's sometimes hard to get them out of their bubble to share with us their why, but I think the passion is 100% there. I still feel that that's strong. And we haven't had a chance for a conference in a couple of years. This is the first year back. And man, I tell you, there's conferences, you know, happening everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing that I would just say is, you know, there's something to be said for when you're the creator of something. Your passion is really, it's on fire, right? So when you purchase something, you're interested in it, but it's a little bit different. And so I think that, you know, with the whole T-sheet situation, what I would say is, you know, Matt Rissell, that was his baby, and he wrote it. I mean, the reason that he created T-sheets was because he was burned, right? And so he created that app because he was very passionate about solving that problem for other business owners, so that they wouldn't go through what he went through. You know, when he joined Intuit, and Intuit's an amazing company. If you haven't read their core values, you should. And having worked very closely with Intuit as, you know, as one of their suppliers, I can tell you that they live and breathe those core values. And every employee that I have ever met that worked for Intuit was an amazing human being that really did live and breathe the Intuit culture. So I think that, you know, some of, you know, when you have an acquisition, you're always going to have a little bit of a loss of that spark, right? Because you're transferring the ownership to someone else. But what I would say is I still see that spark in lots of the up and coming apps. You know, for example, Keeper, right? So Ben Stein, what an amazing person, an amazing human. And he's built an app for accounting professionals that's going to make a big difference. And you can absolutely 100% see the same spark that we saw, you know, with T-sheets. Same thing with Lyceum, Client Hub. You know, we've got Chris Farrell, and we've got Judy over at Client Hub. It's the same thing. So it's still there. And I think that where you start to see it kind of disconnect a little bit is when you have these big giant companies, right, which are larger organizations. And then you have to, and I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying that sometimes you have to dig a little deeper for it, because what you're seeing is the whole organization, and what you have to really look for is the people under the organization. So, you know, with Intuit, one example is they give back to the community in so many ways. You know, they have community days, they give their employees paid time to go and do community service. They're a very philanthropic organization, and they're, you know, also very green.
You know, I would say that as you were talking about, you know, sometimes as you get further levels away from the original dream, you know, you suffer with some of that passion. I think that's true in accounting firms. My gosh, it's really hard to hire somebody who's as passionate as that original entrepreneur owner.
100%.
So I think the same thing happens with us. And it's rightfully so. There should only be so many people staying up late at night worrying about this. You know, we need people who want to be able to invest in the company and do a lot of those activities. What were you gonna say, Heather?
I was going to say, you know, it comes up to, like, Liz and I had an idea. I don't know, who knows how long ago, but we had an idea at some point, how, like, what would it look like if you had a firm that wasn't a firm? Like, if you had a cooperative of accounting professionals that acted as an organization, but weren't, like, they were more of an association rather than an organization. And so they still had that spark of really loving what they do, but they, as a group, acted as a large firm. It was just an idea that was like that. Yeah, I still love that idea too.
Because what you have is, you know, for example, you might have somebody who's great at cleanup. So you've got a tag team system for being able to pull somebody in who just loves that. You know, there's a lot of people out there who like the project work. And then there's also the people out there who enjoy the tax. Dawn, who enjoys the representation. I mean, there's enough of us out there that we could have a cohort. I believe that it would live and thrive.
Yeah, no, I
So
think you're right.
Yeah, so I love that idea. That's very fascinating, of the coalition or the community-based approach towards organizational structures. That's super innovative and super inspiring. But I want to go back to the Appy Camp for a second.
Sure.
First of all, you know, we're in the Facebook group, and I keep seeing all these people pop in. I'm like, oh my God, I love that person. Oh my God, wait, oh my God, wait, they're coming. Oh my God. And so it's turned into this like exciting moment for us to see people we haven't seen in a long time, people that have inspired us, that are friends, that maybe we've had a few Zoom calls with, but we haven't seen them in person. I'm really excited about that, right? And then we also have some app partners coming, right? And so you know, I haven't, again, we all haven't been going to conferences, and usually my way of interfacing with these app partners was they would have a booth, and then I'd go see what they were doing and go to their sessions and see what they're doing. And so you know, so now I'm also therefore excited to really see, well, first of all, who's there, which app partners are there, and then more specifically, I want to go back to something you said, Liz. You said something about in your conversation with Clayton that there was this idea of we make the agreement and put it on the table with the app partner. And I think about the stuff that Ingrid and I are concerned with, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Climate action. And we start to think like, okay, if I was to design an agreement, right, I would want to know first and foremost, like, what is this app partner's relationship to climate, right? How are they understanding that? How are they processing it as a community? How are they addressing whatever the issues are? And really, as an organization, I think to your point, Heather, part of it's looking at the company values and saying like, hey, what does this company actually value? Are they practicing those values, et cetera? So my question for you is this, you know, we have these partners, app partners, they're coming to Appy Camp. First of all, who are they? I'd like to know who they are. And then secondly, what was it about these app partners, specifically if you kind of put the spotlight on their culture and say, what was it about these app partners and what they're doing, and maybe the cultures that they represent that you thought, okay, these are the ones that need to be at this camp with these people. This is why they're there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So as far as who will be there, Intuit is our premier sponsor, and you know, it makes sense that they want to be invested. They continue to stay tied to us with the Pro Advisor program, the TWN group, that's the Trainer Writer Network group, and so they're really curious as to what is the things that we're seeing. And then we also have ADP will be there, And ADP has always had, some type of a council that they're connected with the people, the solution, understanding where they need to develop. So that one's kind of a natural. And then we also have Carbon, and Ian, he's keen on being able to understand the needs of the workflow. And so he's there from that aspect of it. And then we also have, Heather was talking about Keeper, and Ben is over the moon to be able to have this opportunity as a new thriving business to be able to, listen to us and to have our ear and be able to ask some questions. Swissnet is there, and one of the things that they're doing is they're big into security, which is why I've worked with them so much. They have Visory, that's a brand new launch that they've had IT support for a long time, but what they're curious in is they understand what large firms need. Financial institutions have needed to have security for a long time, but they're curious as an accounting firm, what are the areas that we struggle with security, training our team to not open an email. So I would say, who else am I missing, Heather? Jirav is there. And, Jirav is another one that, oh my gosh, if you've checked out their reporting solution, the ability to have drivers for the data, say that you want to be able to hire your next team member, you need to be able to put in an aspect of, my forecast is going to include that I need to expect to have this payroll expense and all of the things that go with that cost of having additional people. So, all of the solutions that have joined us are solutions that are interested in our feedback. Go ahead, Heather.
100% of what you just said about the feedback, 100%. And then of course we have our Appy Hour champagne level sponsor, Ignition, who I've been an Ignition user for years and years. What Liz just said, I think, is the pinnacle of what was going through my mind when she was speaking, was that the apps that we love to partner with are ones that make the investment in our community. So they're the ones that are freely offering content and tools and information, practice aids, things to accounting professionals and our clients that help us to do our job better and can help to fuel small business and take care of small business. So really that is every single one of the partners, and they are sponsors, but we're calling them partners because one of the main differences between Appy Camp and other conferences, and I don't want to say conference because we're not a conference, but other events, is that our partners are coming in not as presenters. They will definitely be talking about their vision, mission, their core values, but they're coming in as attendees. So they're coming in, they're going to be sitting next to the accounting professionals. They're going to be doing the ropes course, the treetop ropes course with us. They're going to be painting with us. They're going to be breaking bread with us. And they're going to be having really awesome conversations about where our industry is headed and what should that look like. So, it's a really, in my, I know I'm very close to it, but I'm really excited about it because it really is a time for us to be in it together rather than us talking, at each other. Right. And the presenters that we're bringing in are presenters that we selected that everyone in the room is going to benefit from.
What I love about what you're sharing, and then I'll pass it over to you, Ingrid, after this, but I just want to kind of reflect, Heather and Liz, what I love about what you're sharing, and actually I think what I'm beginning to really appreciate, having heard it from you, is this idea that part of the reflection of the values is how you design the experience, right? And so what you're doing is you're saying, like, okay, first of all, that these app companies are paying attention to their stakeholders, right? And really listening to those stakeholders is obviously a key component, and that's present. But then that those app partners are literally sitting next to you, right? It's not like you're showing up for the sales pitch, which is sort of advocating for that, oh, we know more than you, you got to do what we're going to tell you to do kind of culture, but rather saying like, no, we're all equal and we all have something to contribute, and we all can bring that thing to the table and really begin to see how we can solve real problems for this small business ecosystem of clientele that we serve. So I love that intelligence is there in the design. And I'm super excited to be climbing I know I'm a little nervous. I posted on page, I was like, I don't know about that tree, but I signed up for it. And I'm super excited that I'll be climbing through the trees with these people too. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, no, it says a lot about our partners that are coming, because, when we were talking to them about it, they knew, like, this is not a lead generation event. You're not going to walk away with a bunch of leads. What you're going to walk away with is a bunch of new relationships, and people that are really going to understand what your vision, mission, and core values are, and be able to share that with the world. So, and then, they're also going to learn what we need. Right. They're going to hear it from us in an intimate environment, which is, we're so excited about it. And we're so excited that you guys are going to be part of it.
I love the relational aspect of it. I'm so excited to be able to dig deep and have the time with our colleagues and our app partners to get to know them as human beings and build relationships and friendships. And I guess, so getting back, you're totally right, Liz. Matt Russell broke the mold big time. I agree with you there. And T-Sheets is an outstanding example of what I'm talking about as far as that shining star of culture. It is not the only example. I mentioned Receipt Bank, which is now Dext, and also Live Plan, and just that trend that was present in 15, 16, 17 has kind of stepped back a bit. And I think for myself, what a lot of these apps might be missing is kind of a front person for the band. And when I say that, I mean someone to speak at the conferences and engage with people on that inspiring level. Queen would not be Queen without Freddie Mercury. Can they still put on an amazing show in remembrance of what was? Absolutely. And it's still not Freddie Mercury. So, just thinking about it from that perspective, in 2015 and 16, when I first got introduced to the apps that blew my mind, I turned my firm inside out to come up with solutions for, okay, how do I play with this app? How do I bring on the customers that are going to work with this app? Because I want to play with these people. And I did that for Receipt Bank and T-Sheets and Live Plan and Practice Ignition. It wasn't just signing up Practice Ignition for my practice. I was like, who else would be a really good fit for Practice Ignition, which is now Ignition? And, thinking about other industries besides accounting professionals that I could introduce this amazing software to. And it's that kind of creative thinking. I mean, that is app evangelism. That was what those companies were inspiring in me. And at this point, I'm not feeling that inspiration on the show floor at the conferences. And so I'm hoping that I can find some of that inspiration in these deeper conversations at Appy Camp. And at the same time, how do we demonstrate to the apps what we're kind of missing at the conferences the last handful of years, so that we can empower them to inspire us again? Does that make sense?
I hear you. And I've because of the consulting firm and what we do is work directly with these apps, I still feel it. I still have that sense of burning desire to listen to us. There's solutions out there that in the accounting space and not, that Appy Hour has seeked out, brought to our space, and they're thrilled to be able to connect with the people that are in our community. So I still feel it. I just think that some of, like what you said, is there a front person that is sharing the message that's resonating with everybody? Maybe that's the piece that's missing. I don't know, but I definitely know that the passion for the community is still there.
Oh yeah, I would agree with you. I definitely agree with you, Liz. I mean, we see it all the time, and we're Appy Hour, right? So
Right.
we have app developers contacting us all the time, and they are always very excited about their app. And And they're always excited about what their app's going to solve, right? And they're always excited about their mission. You know, I agree with you that Matt Russell, absolutely a unicorn, right? And I think that it's interesting because, you know, you can be the best whatever you are in the world, but if you don't understand how to deliver the message of what you're doing, you're not going to get traction. And that's a marketing issue, right? So, you know, I think that the fire's there. Maybe the fanning of the fire, it needs a little bit of restructuring if they're looking to get, you know, people excited.
I totally hear you. And I think for me, part of it with having that front person, that inspirational, somebody who's focusing on the impact, not just in our firms, but the impact on the world. How does this make the world a better place? And that's where it ropes back in to the accounting alchemy piece is, you know, we talk, you know, with the app partners currently, and yes, there's passion there because they're nerding out about the features. And I think that's a place where like the two of you shine, is in, yes, these features and how they can, you know, improve our firms and save us time. And then I look at it and I'm like, yes, and it's a feature. What's the bigger picture? Like, how can we look bigger?
Yeah, you know,
That's a great question. I mean, and I'll might probably answer part of it, and probably Heather will answer a different part. But for me, a lot of the pandemic influenced a lot of our connectivity in our world, in our ecosystem, in our community. We just were missing that piece. So I feel like that part's coming back online. And you were talking about the features. I would say that the vast majority of apps that I work with, that they didn't use their marketing dollars during that time to be able to go out and evangelize and share, you know, what is their app and their vision and their mission. You know, that's the part that I really think that you're honing in on, is why would you connect with that app? And they spent a lot of those dollars in development, and they were listening to us. Here's all the things that we need. And so right now there is, you know, I would say app revisioning happening all over the place with a lot of the solutions. And the thing that they're hearing from us is that we want them to do more than just the one thing. So be more than maybe what you originally started with, and connect to the next piece of our step, because that workflow is really important to us. And if we're using an app for just one piece of the workflow, it's difficult to then connect to another piece of the workflow with another app. So that's more of what we're seeing, is there's a lot of behind the scenes networking happening, which I'm a huge fan of. I'll pass it over to you, Heather, because you probably have a different angle of it too.
No, I do have a different angle. I mean, the features, I mean, that's why we buy an app, right? I mean, when we functionally buy an app to solve a problem that we're having. You know, I think that if I'm looking at an app that does the same thing, I'm looking at two apps. I think you're absolutely right, Ingrid, that I'm going to try and I'm going to choose an app that's more aligned with the culture of my own firm, right? And my clients. So 100% there for sure. One of the big things that, you know, we were seeing with a lot of these apps back in 15, 16, 17, 18 was there was a lot of marketing. There wasn't a lot of money going into support. T-Sheets was the exception, which is why he was a unicorn, right? Is he had that stellar support. He had it all, right? But a lot of the apps that were fantastic during that time really fell short on the support end of it. And it was really difficult to buy into it. You had to be tech savvy and be able to read knowledge base articles and do that yourself. What I've seen over the past 5 years is a pivot away from the marketing towards the support. And what I am seeing is that the support for a lot of our app vendors has been a real focal point, and it has made the difference in whether or not I will now use their app. A big company that made a huge pivot that I am just so happy about, and it is amazing, is Expensify. So Expensify, for years, they were all about, you know, taking people to Fiji and Hawaii and wherever. But the support, you would, you know, it would take you a week and a half to get through, you know, one question, because it was all email. Their support is amazing. You actually go onto their website now and there's a button that you click and somebody calls you within 10 minutes. It's phenomenal. So I was really happy to see that. And I see that that's happening with, with more and more apps. And, what that says to me is that they are taking culture seriously because they're connecting us with us on a human level. And to be perfectly honest, human-based support is expensive. And so if they're making the investment to have a human on the other line when we need it, I think that says a lot about their culture and how much they care about their customers. So that's just my spin on that question.
Well, I think you're right about the support aspect of it. I think one of the things that we discovered during the pandemic that became really front and center is that people need people.
They do.
And so, the knowledge-based articles, that's one of the reasons why Heather and I dug in so deep back in the day, is that technical reading and that technical understanding and willingness to go in and break things. I can't tell you how many times I broke things, but then figuring out how to fix it was exciting. And now you're right, we have more people who are willing to lend a hand and have that extra piece of support, which is 100%.
Fantastic. I see it across so many of, it really is a priority. You see more certification programs, you see more on-demand training, and more live training. It's fantastic. There's, there's been so much progress in that area. I think it's now an industry standard, which is what it needs to be. It wasn't before. It's like, here's our technology, figure out how to use it. Now, holding our hands is a core core competency. It's required.
Thank you, Heather. And I just want to acknowledge my internet's getting a little funky, so I'm not sure if this is coming through. So let me know, Ingrid, if I'm having trouble. Okay, I'm getting thumbs up. All right. So first of all, feature, right? The conversation about the feature I think is really important, but I want to highlight one thing. In that, my relationship when I was leading firms was the feature so that, right? We get this feature so that we can create space for something else, right? It's never about the feature, it's about the impact of the feature. And I say that in part because part of what I get curious about is, what are we advocating for in the so that, right? If we're saying, get this product, have this feature so that you can make more money, is different than saying, get product, this feature, you can more value, right? And so I think part of it is what are the app companies advocating for in the so that, right? The other thing I wanted to bring up, and I love that, Heather, that you were talking about customer service, because like I've been on the phone for the last 2 months with Xfinity, and needless to say, I wasn't appreciating my billing, right? And so I got on the phone with them. But but it wasn't, even though I had some issues with the billing, what happened is I ended up in these beautiful conversations where my last phone call yesterday with them was, they kept saying it's like my most beautiful, wonderful customer. And they just kept referring to me in this just positive way. I was like, I couldn't help but to be happy. Even though I was frustrated about the bill, they were referring to me in this way, literally my most beautiful, inspiring customer. That's literally what they said to me. It's like, okay, I can't be mad at you, right? So I think how the app companies sort of educate and inform the customer service and how they interact with people, I think is another important distinction. So I acknowledge those key points that you both brought up. The one thing I wanted to ask now that we're kind of coming near the end of our session today is this, right? So Appy Camp happens, we're all having this beautiful time, we're in the woods, we're climbing the trees, we're connecting, and it's just such a beautiful, it's complete, right? So my question is this: what do you hope that as a take from this experience, and perhaps more specifically relates to these app companies? What do you aspire for us as professionals to do as a follow-up in conversation with these app partners? What is the follow-up?
Well, I would say that what we want is to build a stronger community. What we want is education that is fully aware of each other. And that means being able to connect and stay connected. So what we're building at Appy Camp is really the start of a relationship that keeps living and going on from just one event. So after this, we're going to continue to have a series that will run from Appy Hour Camp, and we'll have fireside chats where we're able to continue these conversations and say, since camp and the input, what has the app done that maybe has been impactful because of camp? We also, the other piece of it is we want these presenters that haven't had a chance or a platform to be able to present to also have that opportunity. So we really are trying, to bring the two together, our community and the developers, because we can't go back to pencil and paper. I got a spiral notebook the other day with passwords in it from another accounting firm, and I'm just like, that can't be the norm. We've got to do better. We've got to do better with security. I'll pass it over to you, Heather, to see if there's anything else you want to add on.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything that you said, we're looking to come together as a community, as Liz said, and have more voices join, be outspoken about what our industry should look like, and what direction we're going, together, right, as a team.
Well, and you also said, Matthew, that being able to just connect an app, okay, yeah, that was fancy and great, but it doesn't really sometimes do enough. And so that's the piece that I think that we've continued to give feedback, is that's where we really need to understand all of our workflows to be able to build a tech stack. And so that's the part of it that everybody's got their starting lineup. Dawn's got her starting lineup, it's her tech stack. Everybody needs whatever you want to call it. You're me, I love heavy metal. Woo! So I mean, it's like, what's my home run rock and roll team? I want to be able to share which apps do I use in my tech stack, and then I think we should share with each other which ones we've chosen.
Yeah, got it. So I'll give a sort of comment, and then maybe Ingrid, I'll pass it to you to ask some either a final question and or kind of close it out with us. But I love what you're saying, Liz, in terms of this tech stack. And so I think one of the things we're advocating for at the Accounting Alchemy Network is now for us as accounting professionals to say, hey, one of the metrics or components of evaluating this tech stack is, yes, does it do this? Great. Yes, does it do that? Great. Yes. Okay, awesome. Check, check, check. Features, we love you, right? And I love that, for example, we can use Appy Camp as a way of framing even the evaluation of who we're going to work with, because to your point, you said you keep underscoring that this is about community building and human connection. And so the fact that some of these app partners are present in that space, knowing that that's the primary objective, not to like, how many email subscribers can I get? How many new customers can I drive into my, lead funnel, right? The fact that that's not their primary concern means that these app partners are ones to consider when thinking about, okay, what app partners can we play with who actually do care about humans and who are doing good things in the world, who are thinking about the impact beyond the feature and driving profits. I love that you've really created this sort of screening mechanism for us through Appy Camp to be like, okay, these are some partners who appreciate humanity. So thank you for that. Ingrid, over to you.
Thank you for wrapping that up so succinctly, Matthew. I feel like you just kind of like took our entire conversation and like summarized it in this just beautiful little piece of this is why we had this conversation. So well done. I do want to thank our attendees who were watching live, both here in Zoom and also on Facebook. And particularly Donnie Shiamoto, sorry, I did not see your comments on the Facebook feed in real time because I was watching the chat here in Zoom. For anyone who wants to go back and look at those, fortunately, the Facebook chat is just kind of preserved, and anyone who's watching the live replay, Donnie had some really great ideas to contribute in particular to our conversation around having an association kind of firm, rather, a different kind of firm. He had some ideas to add there because Donnie is also brilliant. So yeah, I think with that, I would love to hear just, a parting takeaway, aha moment, or final parting thought from both Liz and Heather, along with our appreciations for both of you being here with us today, and so excited to see you both next month and be able to like touch you in person. I'm just so excited to squeeze you and be able to sit around a fire with you and play music and eat tasty food and all of those things. I'm so excited for what you have planned, and so honored that you chose me and Matthew to include in this amazing thing that you're creating. So with that, any parting ideas or thoughts? See which one of you unmutes first. Liz, go for it.
So, being able to be connected, that's huge for us. We really have lived in Zoom, and Zoom gets you so far. It doesn't get you that, there's three-dimensionals, and we're missing that piece. And those conversations sometimes get deeper as hours progress. And, being able to have a 3-day span where you start a conversation, you think on it for a while, and then you come back and maybe you add on to it, pull in somebody else who's there to be able to add on to that. This community, the reason that we do what we do is we love it. And we want to continue to give to it. I know that Heather and I, and Ingrid, you and Matthew, also we gift so much to our community, and we want to make the best impact that we possibly can. And so that is why Appy Camp is here, is to connect us in the best human possible way.
Bravo, thank you. Heather.
Yeah, no, totally. Everything that Liz just said. And, I love what you guys are doing. I love, and I think if the one piece of advice that I would give is definitely don't forget the human aspect of the technology that you're letting into your life, your practice, and your clients' lives. I think that is really important. They're partners. They should be partners. So looking at it from that way, Liz had said, she said this years and years and years ago, and I always think of it, what is that, a technology partner should feel like an extension of your firm. So it should feel like somebody that is part of your firm and part of your team. That's a good app partner. That's a good technology partner. So yeah, this has been great. Thank you guys so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you both for being active participating members in the Accounting Alchemy Network as we work to transform the accounting profession into a vehicle for positive change in the world. And I feel like that is such a huge part of what you're both doing with the Appy Hour. And so it's such a pleasure to be able to collaborate with you on creating something. And you're just so much fun to play with. So thanks so much to both of you. Thanks to everyone who was watching and participating in the chat and such on the back end, and for anyone watching the replay. And please continue the conversation in the LinkedIn and Facebook groups, and feel free to share this video once it's up on YouTube so that we can share the love with others and let people know what amazing stuff is going on with the Appy Hour and Appy Camp and culture with our app partners in our app ecosystem. Thanks so much to everyone. Talk to you soon.